A very good day to you. I'm Howard Feldman. This is a Synthesis podcast. And today I'm absolutely delighted to welcome to the session John Ng, who is a customer experience principal. What does that mean? Well, he's a specialist in AWS Connect, an IT program delivery, service delivery. And I need to understand what this AWS Connect thing is all about. I said to John before we started recording that I am not a particularly clever technical person, but I do understand business. And what I would like to really understand through this conversation is what AWS Connect really means, what it could mean to me as a business owner or as a person involved in business, what it means to businesses who are looking to take advantage of this incredible technology. John, welcome. Thanks for taking the time to speak to us. How are you doing?
No, I'm good, thank you, Howard, and really pleased to be talking to you this morning. And a topic that's really close to my heart. And, you know, I've been in contact centers industry for approaching 30 years now. So I started off as an engineer, but more recently, over the last 3 or 4 years, been very heavily focused around Amazon Connect, which is the AWS contact center service. So yeah, I mean, we can go into conversation. I don't know how you want to do this, but if you want to just ask me some questions, we'll go from there.
I think I'd love to hear your experience, because you're with the Bank of Scotland. You've really looked at this from many different angles, and didn't go this route because you were told to go this route. You kind of worked out how things needed to evolve, and that's really why I wanted to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, and it's probably
through that.
Yeah, and it's probably, that's actually a really good point. It's probably, you know, where the story started, I guess, is really very relevant. And I should imagine, well, I know for a fact that many people experience very similar things. That I was head of technology within Royal Bank of Scotland. I was having a conversation with my senior stakeholder within the bank, who was the MD within personal banking. And it was quite a difficult conversation for me because he was frustrated at how technology was constraining his business, and how his business can, you know, prosper and develop and adapt more to what customers are actually doing. And the technology was constraining him. And on the back of that conversation, I thought I needed to find another way. I needed to find a better way. And in sort of that research, came across Amazon Connect. And Amazon Connect is a cloud-based contact center, very easily to deploy. There was a comment around, can you build me a contact center within 2 minutes? Now you can spin that something up very, very quickly, but for enterprise organizations, it takes a bit longer. But the thing is you only pay for what you consume and use, and therefore it enables businesses to move much more rapidly and much more quickly. Particularly around anything from a new perspective. With COVID, that's created a huge amount of change, both from a consumer customer perspective, but also from a business operational perspective. And one of the things that I've seen and personally experienced is how Amazon Connect has enabled businesses to move more quickly and adapt more readily to the ever-changing landscape. But it's sort of stabilizing a little bit now. But in them early days, those that had cloud-based Amazon Connect type services move overnight, almost without notice, to new ways of working.
So almost it provides that agility that is absolutely critical at the moment.
Absolutely. And again, that pace of change, from a business point of view, any of the tech can do a lot of what the business is looking to try and do. And what do I mean by that? We hear a lot about multi-channel, omni-channel, and integrating things. The majority of technology out there can do all of that, but I think the challenge is how long it takes you to get there and how much it costs to get there. And this is where I think something like Amazon Connect really plays its part, because you can get there more quickly and therefore more cost effectively. It's an open platform that enables you to integrate with any of your existing systems and enables you to move at the pace that you want to move at.
What's so interesting is a comment, that you made earlier, that technology at one point was perceived as a constraint. It's almost with Amazon Connect that we've hit a bit of a tipping point, that it's now gone from, instead of this, we know we've got to go this route but there's a lot of work to be done for it. With Amazon Connect, from my understanding, is it's almost reached that tipping point that it becomes very, very much easier to get on board and to scale.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, that constraint, and to bring that to life a little bit, is, and people that will listen to this podcast will probably be very familiar with, is I want to change an IVR menu structure. I want to offer a new service or new product as a business, and they go to their IT teams, and their IT team says, actually, that's going to cost you, many dollars, and it's probably going to take me 6 months to do, or even a year to do. Whereas something like Amazon Connect, you can do that within days. We were doing some work around speech and speech analytics and trying to understand what customers are actually asking for, and what words and languages they were using. And I ran a comparison against what I'll call more traditional tech and Amazon Connect. We did something on Amazon Connect within 4 days, and it took us 4 months to do on the traditional tech. So, personal experience is part of that learning and experimentation.
I want to go back to that because I want to go back to that and understand that more, because I'm completely word and language obsessed. Take me through the practical commercial idea. What were you trying to understand there?
So if you think about a lot of the typical customer services, you phone into a contact center and it says, welcome to, Bank of Australia or Bank of America, whatever it might be, press 1 for this, press 2 for that. It's a very rigid and structured format, which tends to be driven by internal business process and not necessarily by customer requirement. And what I was looking to try and do is, rather than having that rigid process, is introduce natural language conversation, and therefore just ask customers, why are you phoning? Why are you contacting us? How can I help you today? And just using that natural language type approach. And we were doing part of that is just to understand what languages were customers using. So if you want, say you've got a credit card and you've got a PIN number and you want to change your PIN number, you might not use them words to ask for a PIN number change. You might use something else because you might not recognize that as the important. I'm trying to use my card, but I can't remember the numbers that I need to push in. That may be what the language a customer might use in. From an internal point of view, it might be PIN number, and it don't. So we were trying to do that analysis, and obviously the speed of how you do that. And again, if you think about what we've all experienced over the last year, new phases have come in. 24 months ago, COVID wasn't a word that we'd all recognised, whereas now we would do. And any organisation that's got this sort of very structured IVR menu in place, trying to put COVID into that structure has probably proved quite difficult. Whereas if you can natural language, it's there literally overnight.
And our patterns have changed as well. We now have older people buying online when they wouldn't have done. They would have popped down to the grocery store. You've got people calling in to places because they don't want to go there at the moment. So in fact, our whole lifestyle and behavior has changed quite dramatically. So we would need any company that wants to reflect that change and capitalize on that change actually needs to be able to adapt to it as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. It's a term I use. I mean, I mentioned about omnichannel. I talk about omni-customer because I think what's happened is we all as customers have had to adapt because we couldn't go to the high street. We couldn't go to to the shop we wanted to normally use. Bank branches were closed for a period of time. Insurance, whatever you want to do, your travel, and it's got no age relevance at all. But you've seen people of all demographics changing their behaviours because they've had to. And I think what we've seen is a more demanding customer now than we had 24 months ago. The more au fait and more willing to move. The rise of what we call chatbots has been enormous. Now that wouldn't have, that was going to happen anyway, but it probably would have taken 5 years. It's taken a year where that's become more normal. Video, I think, is another really good example. I don't know what's use of video. You can have a video conference call with your bank manager, with your doctor, whereas before you have to book a slot in the surgery. So that as customers, we've all adapted and behaved, and I think it's really, really important for businesses to be able to adapt, to move, and respond to their customer behaviours. And this is where something like Amazon Connect really does help, is it enables you to be able to be have that agility that you talked about earlier.
So Amazon Connect is coming to South Africa. How do we see this? I mean, the possibilities are immense, but sometimes when they're so immense, it's harder to appreciate or to think of concrete answers. Where would you see the primary benefit for companies?
I think that the initial benefit is probably to solve some of their immediate problems. So, my experience and my recommendation would be is identify a problem that you've got. And let's take a real example at the moment, and this is quite familiar across the globe. Is you've no longer got as many agents you used to have to answer the calls that you're getting. The calls volumes have gone up. So how do you manage that? And how do you balance that by providing better customer experience? So how can you provide perhaps an interim solution by offering chat bots or text bots or whatever you want to call it to automate some of them simple transactional activities? And this is where something like Amazon Connect can really work. You can then start to, you don't have to replace what you've got already. You can take it step by step. So this is not throw what you've got away and start again. This is about how you move to where you want to get to over a period of whatever time you choose based on your strategy. But it enables you to start small, build, learn, experiment, and then grow from there. But my experience is solving problems, find a problem, solve the problem, builds credibility, and then you continue to move on from there.
So it's so interesting. Before we started the podcast, we were complaining, as South Africans like to do, to anybody who will listen, about our electricity crisis, and we're experiencing load shedding at the moment. On my radio show this morning, I interviewed the head of media at Johannesburg City Power. And what was interesting is, because I love these types of numbers, I asked him what type of call numbers they are seeing at Johannesburg City Power. And he said to me, before he came onto my show this morning, he checked the numbers because he knows that I'm going to ask him this, that they had received 6,000 calls before 6 a.m. this morning. And when you look at, and he said they can't cope. They absolutely cannot cope with what is coming their way, because that's a combination of load shedding. Maybe when the power comes back on, people haven't been turned on, and then something has blown. 6,000 calls before 6 a.m. in the morning, and they absolutely can't deal with it. So they would be, for example, a perfect customer for an AWS Connect.
And that, I mean, I've been involved in a real life example of a utility company in the UK. And in that example is if you had the ability to have the data available, so you as a customer's phoning because you've lost your power, if that system that you're calling into knows where you are, where you live, your postcode or whatever it might be, it knows you've got no power. It can immediately tell you, we know you've got a problem. We're on it. We're expecting an update, and therefore it doesn't need to go to an agent.
And you don't feel so lonely because electricity is magic. When it goes off, you never think it's coming back. It's like the internet. So when somebody's telling you, we're working on it, we know about it, we haven't forgotten you, it's a whole completely different experience. You won't get so many hateful hashtags on social media. But that's a larger a utility organization. What about a smaller type of company? Is this as valuable to a smaller company as to a larger company?
Yes, I mean, I've seen it right across the spectrum. From very large enterprise organisations that I'd be sort of more familiar with, but also very, very small organisations. 5 people businesses.
Amazing.
And because it is so easy to set yourself up, if you've got a little bit of technical know-how, you can do something very, very quickly.
Effectively, you need a 16-year-old kid living in the house and you can do it. Is that what you're saying?
You can do, or I wouldn't say it has to be a 16-year-old, but somebody that's happy to learn.
Right now, of course, I'm joking.
It's quite intuitive what you need to do, and it's really interesting because I think Amazon and AWS really don't know how many real people are on the platform. Over a period of like 6 to 9 months across when the pandemic hit, there was over 5,000 new contact centers set up. So it's in the thousands. And you're starting to see, it becoming one of the preferred choices when these organizations go through sort of RFP processes or tender processes to replace their technology. I'm seeing Connect being, preferred choice in more often than not at the moment.
Right. So moving is easy. It's not complicated.
No, from a technical point of view, it's not. I mean, there are challenges that businesses need to consider.
Sure.
Key thing, as I said, it's a cloud-based platform, so it's in the public cloud. You need to make sure that you secure that in the way that your organization wants it to be secured. You need to think about data and data privacy. You need to think about IT security. So, and if you're more familiar with what I call the more traditional, technology, which might even be on premise, then you need to make sure that you understand what the differences are and how cloud technology doesn't make it any more risky or doesn't create any more IT security concerns. You just need to understand how it's different. And just go through that process. So that I would say, you need to put that top of your list is making sure that you engage with the relevant people within a business and an organization around data privacy and IT security, and any governance perspective. One of them elements is the regulator. Certainly from a UK point of view, the regulator is really keen to understand who's deploying key applications and key services into the cloud technologies. Because you think about it, is not only is the cloud being a service for you as a customer, but actually the cloud is acting as almost a platform across an industry or industries, and therefore the regulator wants to make sure that all the right due diligence and preparation's gone into that. So you need to think about that sort of thing, and then there's the mindsets, the cultural, the behaviours point of view. Is people that have been looking at this type of technology and been in this sort of industry for a long time, opening their minds up to the art of the possible. And a really good story. I mean, Amazon themselves is a really good use case example of this. Amazon Retail, so what originally started off as the bookstore, is now one of the biggest organizations in the world, if not the world. And if you think about what they've done from a customer service point of view, about 11 or 12 years ago, they were looking at their new contact center technology. They went to the marketplace, as we all did, couldn't find what they were looking for, and decided to build it themselves. And that's where Amazon Connect started. So the sort of the birth of Amazon Connect started about 11 or 12 years ago within Amazon themselves. And Amazon were using it themselves for about 10 years before they pushed it out into the marketplace in 2017. So for me, having seen that and been and talked to these people that were part of that journey over that period of time, gives you the confidence of, this is good service, good product, good capability. It's getting good investment, and really focusing on what the customers want. So if you think about how AWS and Amazon work, they are customer obsessed. And I've fed stuff back to AWS about things that weren't working or things that weren't right, and I've seen that change, and I've seen them react to that feedback, which I think is really, really positive. And they'll continue to evolve. It's still a maturing product and platform, but focusing very much on today rather than something that might have been built 20 years ago.
It's actually such an exciting thing, because what this means is if you've got a customer who's getting what they want, who are happy in their interactions with you, it allows you as a business to develop such a different type of relationship with them, a collaborative relationship, rather than one that it can be quite adversarial in a way, because there's nothing more frustrating than holding on and saying, for ABC, press 3, but you don't want 3 actually. You want somebody to be able to really understand where you're at as a customer. It just brings, it connects you in a very, very different way, in a completely different framework. So it really has the most incredible potential.
Indeed. And one thing behind that, one of the more recent activities I've been involved in is around the use of the data and the MI that's coming out the back of the system. So being able to analyze, how your customers are feeling, why are they contacting you at that point in time? What is the sentiment through a pace of a call? A customer might start on a call because they've lost their power, in the example you was using. But if you explain to them what's going on, by the time you end of the call, you might find that your customer's more happy and they understand what's going on. And being able to see that through the journey of an actual call is really powerful. for people that are running these services to their customers.
Absolutely incredible. John Ing, this is unfortunately where we have to leave it. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us, sharing some of your incredible experience with AWS Connect. Coming to South Africa, Synthesis, of course, we can't wait as a company to be able to start running with this. The potential is immense. We can just see the value for our customers, and certainly it's a journey that we can't wait to start. I'm Howard Feldman. This is a Synthesis podcast. Don't forget to subscribe below so that you can be notified as and when we release new material. Have a great day. God bless.